You have your choice. Every day you can vote from 11 to 150 for the ticker that you want discussed on that segment. Neil and Sean, they're locked in. They're going to look at the trades that you want. But first, we're going to look at the futures, see the cues. It was a bit of a tough day today on the futures, about 1.5% in the red, trying to bounce off that 440 level, 444 level into 446 on the triple Qs. A bit of a tougher look today. All the Mag 7 names are in the red. Speaking of Mag 7, the first on the list, Tesla, the #1 requested name by you guys. Yeah, they apparently recalled 125,000 vehicles. We know the recalls are more like software updates, but that sent the stock a little bit down today, guys. I saw you guys trading Tesla. Welcome back. Good afternoon.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Sharif. It is great to be back. The sun is shining. It is fantastic. Nvidia's at $1,081. Okay. All right. Yeah, we went to lunch with Mr. Jeff Mendel. So thank you to that OTC Markets. That was a heck of a lot of fun. And while we were gone, I came back, and on the midday show, I turned to Sharif and go, "Oh my God, I cannot believe this just happened." And Tesla went down into 174. We talked about this level earlier today. I just didn't think we would get into this. Look at this, 173.50, like 173. You're going to get, I don't even know if these wicks existed. The lowest you're going to see here is 173.50, you know, 173.25. Anyways, like that little wick down there, that was the shot. But that's the shot to put on, like, I'm going home trading. But we traded it for a while, and it was great early, man. We had the dip. We had the dip into 177. It went up to 180. That's $2.50, $3 almost right there. But then it just kept on falling, and we gave it all back. So we gave it all back, being stubborn. I mean, we have some wins here, but it just eventually wasn't enough because it basically broke every time. It broke 177 when we tried to defend it. It broke 176 right there. And then we got away from it when it broke 176. So the damage is... It's there, but it's relatively muted. We should have flipped short when we broke the low of the day. So, yeah. But I feel like when we go over a lot of these names, that's going to be the story.
There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts for these names.
So, I mean, I really like Tesla. I still think it's a long. I think it's a long for a while until we break and open below, like, 172. Like, these 173 areas that I'm saying are, like, roughly in there. We need to open up underneath. And then
gold on the daily.
When we do that. Gold, did you say?
No, it's gold.
Oh, it's goldy on the daily.
That area is golden on the daily. So what I mean by that is, look, Tesla.
Let's start trading some gold up in here.
No, I'm not talking about gold. We should be talking about XOM from Randy.
No.
By the way.
We're not allowed to talk about it until June 3rd, remember?
Okay, we can't say anything about XOM until June 3rd.
It just happens to be tomorrow.
Okay. But no, Tesla on the daily, that same level, it's the low 170s. It's been 73 and 74 recently, but the 50 period's at 71. That's the one. Just whatever you do, don't go back to some of the plans in the morning for like fade trades that aren't there. I got into something too early, and we'll probably talk about this with Nvidia, but Tesla was a pretty big miss when it rejected 180. Not because it did it once. See, it's a miss and a fail because it rejected a 180 break twice. So it's one thing not to short it right away at the open. And I remember when it happened, I'm like, oh, that's too big of a move off the bottom, reversing it to want to take that chance. Like, that's very, very bullish. It's screaming into that level. It looks super strong at that moment. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go into short. That's like standing in front of a moving freight train. I can defend it. There's no defense for when it literally tags 180 a second time and then consolidates lower and then falls for the rest of the day. But maybe we see that support later today, or maybe we see a little VWAP action to be able to short, because the trend pretty unbroken to the downside. Tesla's exactly the same as the NASDAQ, more or less. So I think you just want to stick with the overall trend. I only have one position, and it's Micron at this current moment. And then we can talk about some Nvidia, which it's rightful that we have this one on the list every day.
It certainly is, Neil. A bit of a tougher day for Nvidia today, though, as you can see, down over 2%, slated to be, or Microsoft slated to be their biggest customer. But that really wasn't the main headline today. The main headline came from Bloomberg. Apparently, the U.S. government, specifically the Biden administration, looking to kind of curb exports to the Middle East, worried that China may get their hands on some of the most advanced chips here for AI. I know that Nvidia was definitely a topic of discussion on how to trade. What did you guys look at?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So look, I traded Nvidia, and I'll go. We'll go over the reason I got out. And at the time, it was very much that I felt the stock was getting bullish, and I had the pullback, but it caught a bid exactly where I would have not wanted it to. So we had the big dump down underneath 11.25. That was the key level yesterday. I had felt that the big short was up here. It is what it is. Like, this is not defending getting out. It was the wrong decision. But I thought the big short was up at the afternoon level at 11:40. So when we got this retracement and it made the bounce off the close, so you bounce off the previous close and then hammer back up, and then it put in the higher low. I'm like, okay, this is Nvidia doing Nvidia things. This is not going to be day two. I got out of the trade. I'm in late on Micron, but Nvidia decided to continue giving it up. So I think this is just confirmation, at least at this point, that you're in a different phase with Nvidia. It's not the automatic dip buy that we've seen. That said, it's only a couple of days down, and the last time it did something like this with a couple of days down this amount, it did then rally for 3 days in a row. I would wager that was a little bit different because it was off of a higher low. It didn't do these, like that move wasn't off a fresh high. The last time it did something like this is all the way back into March. And you did have another fresh high. It came down for 2 days, literally, and then tried to bounce again and then continued running. So I don't know that it's a big-time correction. It almost never puts in 3 days in a row to the downside. It's done it once in the last quarter. But it feels a little bit different this time, at least for now. We got to be looking for some more shorts, I think. You got to be willing to short and then hold on to them as well, especially this afternoon.
You might have noticed just now, I just got into AMD. So, look, I know is AMD's not even on there, okay? But if we're going to talk about NVIDIA, I was saying this morning when we came in, I was like, oh, well, did you guys buy the dip yesterday? Because today you're up another percent and a bit. Well, that didn't last very long, and you started to fade out, and then all of a sudden that 1125 area that we talked about earlier today turns out to be the best trade you could have ever had, re-shorting that right into the 50-period moving average, and then basically falling down. You don't have to get out of it until it crosses back. That's a $30 win, or $40 if you take the bottom. But the good news about this all is right now, A, you don't have to trade it if you don't want to. But B, I feel like now into this 1090 area is something to look at because we have this kind of double, triple top here that was made in about 20 minutes of 193. So I think that could be a level. By the time, if we just let this settle down a little bit, we could get the moving average there. Oh my God, I'm going to sneeze. Oh no!
Boeing news again. So
it or something. And by the way,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Just we'll get to Boeing in a second, unless it's really moving. It looks
no,
like
it's at the high of the day.
I just want to say that we did. Neil just talked about getting short, so we were actually starting to get short immediately when we were talking about that because AMD was right at the 50-period moving average. This was going to be our trade of the day on here, and I like the long at 168. So here it is at 168. Actually, short, long. Short at 168. What am I even talking about? Short at 168. It's the number one trade on the sticky note today. We did get stopped out of it right there because we broke 168.50, but look at the action off that level. So this trade gave you $8. Let's go back into the short now. We take a little bit of profit. Do we want to just quickly?
Well,
let's go back over to Shreve.
No, but just very quickly. I thought I had heard that it was Fitch lowering a rating on their debt, but Boeing is actually continuing. It didn't move at all. Basically, they're at the high of the day there. So,
all right, guys, BNAI, the next on the afternoon rundown, and that chart says it all. It's actually off the highs, was well over 200%, broke through 8, came back a little bit now. This is a holdover from yesterday, good catalyst into the close yesterday. Short float on this one, about 7.5 million shares. Can't seem to allocate the short float, but moving like a heavily shorted name, guys. What is the look on BNAI?
Well, I think we talk about this all the time. The difference between the types of squeeze, the mechanics of why a stock squeezes. It's just about the liquidity available, right? So if it's a heavy short float, then shorts have to cover in the limited availability of liquidity. So a similar thing is going to happen here when it's just a low float stock. Regardless of how much of it is short, it's relatively new. It's 14.5 million float, at least what I see from Trade Ideas here. They don't have a short float listed for it, but 14 million when it's done 52. So it's almost 4 times, probably actually 4 times because we only tracked it since 5:30 in the morning. So it could be 4 times the float in terms of volume. So anyone day trade shorting this or gets caught a little bit, they're under some trouble. It's doing heavy volume. The spread is not the best, but if you can look at when the opportune times to get in this thing have been, like look at the dip, it bounces. Look at this little tight consolidation in there. Like that's a good little area where you can try to take something on, well, at least for myself anyways, where if it does a move like this, you got like 580 down here, it breaks out this top, take 610, 620, 30, 40 cents worth of risk on a breakout. It just might have done something similar. There's a little wick down, break back out the top, and you get a scalp trade in there. Because any move, it was just at $8, now it's at 7. So you get that break, you scalp it out, but if you're trying to hold, like take a break here and you just try to hold it, and you're looking for like $2 or $3 or something like that, you run the risk of the candle that just happened. So I'm glad that candle happened. If you have a nice little tight stop long in there, well, you already probably got out twice for 10%, and then if you lose the 20 or 30 cents on the last little bit, it's not the end of the world. But that didn't even halt. It just went from 7 to 8 to 675 in the time that I was talking without a halt. That is what can happen with these names. So you want to make sure you get a good entry with a reasonable out. Take your profit where you can.
All right, just to show everybody, yeah, so they're just, I guess it's Fitch is coming out and talking about deliveries and whatnot for Boeing. So just because we just teased it, I just want to show it. It's starting to go up to the upside right now. It's looking great. I mean, nothing but upside love right now for BA, which is finally starting to bounce off again this 170 level. I mean, we bounced off of it back on that October bottom, which just rifled every stock, but especially Boeing. I mean, it went up $100. And then we got that little bottom wick. I still remember Brittany Grant. I don't know if you're in the chat, but she was talking about somehow was able to get that and brought it all the way back there. And then we came in and breached. And then this is, again, sort of with that get that garbage out of here thought, you know, all the stuff underneath here, I feel like for Boeing now would be trapped. So all this kind of trapped. So if you can get now above the 50 period and then, you know, get into sort of like 190-ish, you know, up here and get this stuff, then, you know, we start to move back to the upside where we'll draw this little ellipse where I think Boeing should probably think about going right there. 220, 225, you know, just get a little past some of this and upside there, but Boeing still has a heck of a long way to go before it gets up there. But Boeing, interesting name, and I just want to talk about it. Let's go look at a name that had quite the 2024 until yesterday.
It certainly did, Sean, and I guess you guys covered it on the market recap show because this one reported after the bell yesterday, beating on both the top and bottom line. The issue here was the guide, and quite frankly, it was up so much that unless they really guided very aggressive, I don't know, I felt there was profit taking due on this. Down 20% right now, was more on the day. Did you guys trade Dell today?
Oh, wait till it comes back to you, Neil. Don't jump the gun. I have one Dell trade. It should have been
Neil.
2, but it was a really good Montreal smoked meat sandwich, though. It was absolutely delicious. And
Yeah.
shout out to Jeff Mendel. Sean's. The next time I go to this place we had lunch, I'm getting the Philly cheesesteak. I haven't tried it. It looked delicious. I know you had it, but I'm going to try all their sandwiches. They're fantastic. They're
I got like 5 pounds of quinoa salad. I ordered a Greek salad. Last time I was there, I got a Greek salad, and I was like, I'm going to switch it up and get the quinoa, and then it came like, I was like, what the hell?
Okay, give an
And
idea.
the lady's like, someone likes you with this quinoa salad.
Just so you guys have an idea.
I'll take
So
it.
no, just for reference. So this is an iPad. Obviously, you guys can tell.
Is that what that is?
The amount of quinoa that Sean had on his plate
Half?
was like
No,
it was
that's the
the white
size of
part.
the
The
plate.
white part was all quinoa. Easily, you had that much. It was like 2 servings.
Yeah.
So they
It was
hooked
a
them
big-
up with the
big plate.
quinoa. It was more
I
than
didn't eat it
the
all, but now I'm like, oh.
cheesesteak. So
Now I've got that itis, you know.
that's exactly how it should be on a Friday. No, but Dell was a disappointment because it was an SSR bounce, and we only really liked a couple of places. I took one shot at it. The first time was right in here off a bounce of 135. Didn't quite get to 135, but there's a little consolidation in front of 135 even. It broke out the top. I was on the offer to get filled at 75, pulled it to get filled higher, and it came back at, whatever, that was a bad decision. But I ended up making fresh lows. This is where I should have been in the SSR bounce. Like this bounce right here. It shows you a bottom at 131. 130 never gets broken. There's your higher low. There's your break. That's a long here, stop there. Generally, that's the way you look for the setup. It worked yesterday on Coles. It would have worked if I didn't keystroke it on CRM, but there was I think that's the chance that you're looking for. Trying to catch the falling bottom. It's bad reaction. I don't want to call it bad news. Let's not pretend it was a bad quarter. They had a couple of bad numbers and metrics in there, but it was at an all-time high and fresh high. So you're going to get beaten up a little bit, but you look for something very specific if you can when trying to get those beaten up names. And I think it gave you a good one. As far as this afternoon, maybe it can hold on to VWAP. I'd be a little bit concerned if it were to somehow get back down to these lows and retest 130. I think that would be a concerning end of the day. A stock like this, when it's making a bounce, you'd like to see it hold on to some of that bounce. Otherwise, it would say bad things going into next week.
All right. You can see some people riled up here about Philly cheesesteak.
It's that
if
good.
I'm ever in Philadelphia, man, you guys take me wherever you want. We'll go. We'll grab some serious Philly cheesesteaks. But
what's the name?
The thing is, like, you got to sort of be where you're at. I've had some great Phillies. I mean, some great.
No, but what's the name of the famous one? You guys in the chat will know. There's like this one place in Philly that's super
in
legit.
Philly? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think it's a spot where like they're famous for, like when they take your order, they have like mad attitude or you know what I mean. You guys would
soup nuts.
Anybody that's there would know the place. I've only been to Philly like once. Anyways, best cheesesteak out there. Really fun town. Even though they're not the Blue Jays, like if I had a second team and a team in the National League, we love Philly because we share spring training homes. Their fans are fantastic. They got great food, good people, all that good stuff, and lots to see down there as well. But Dell stunk today. What did Nio do?
Dell was a good one.
It's having a hell of a day, Neil. It was just at day's highs. I don't know where it just went right there because I had it up. Okay, I don't know why you guys are moving it, but Nio was at day's highs. Chinese ADRs were mostly negative today as we got weak economic data coming out of China. Today, though, Nio, one of the only Chinese ADRs in the green, Nio secures $207 million investment, bolstering China's charging infrastructure expansion. A little while ago, we actually heard that they were going to use BYD as one of their providers for battery. So any Nio looks for today on you guys?
Oh, it's Geno's apparently is the name of the place. But everyone says, people are saying Geno's and Pat's are tourist traps. I'm not admitting that I've been there. It's just like we had a friend, a mutual friend that was actually, I mean, he'd say he lived in Philly. He lived in Jersey. He worked in Philly, but I mean, like the dude lived.
So he lied.
He lived in Jersey. Like I was at his house.
So where's the integrity then?
He's always like, yeah, I live in Philly. I'm like, you don't live in Philly. You work in Philly. You live in Jersey. And I'm not even caring about keeping
people don't know
real.
where they live.
No, it's just like whatever. Like I actually will say to people, I live in Brampton or the GTA. I don't say I live in Toronto. I don't live in Toronto. I can say it's a GTA, but I'm not gonna. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Nio was a great stock today. Nio was a great stock yesterday. It's only up 1.6%, but that doesn't do justice to what it did today. Look, to bounce off to 50, I think that's an upward trend. I still think this is a potential breakout through 630, and I'm believing in it, a $7 break at some point when it happens. The day it happens, I'm going to take that breakout trade, but we don't care about the daily chart. It's more about the dip and rip is back and alive in this stock. It didn't have any level I would have cared about for a dip and a rip, just didn't happen. It rejected the high of the day break. To me, that's a kind of fail. When it tried to go back to the previous close, there's their bounce. I think that's your shot to make a fresh high and then go trend. It didn't even do that. It then lost the previous close, and for whatever reason at 5.25, off to the races. The good news for the afternoon, it's above yesterday's high. The bad news is the Chinese ADR on a Friday. I don't know what you can expect out of this in terms of more momentum for the rest of the day. It's atypical that you get big moves on the Chinese ADRs in the afternoon, let alone on a Friday afternoon. So I'd be a little skeptical, but it does have the profile of something that could run in the afternoon. I'm just usually expecting a bit of a barcode, usually for NIO.
All right. No, everything's fine. Oh, man. No, just never stop.
More coffee. All the
stops.
coffee. Coffee right here.
I got, yeah, Randy, we went and I just got a little baby. I'll have a coffee here. All right.
Are we allowed to look at XOM again?
XOM? No, I'm not. I'll look at XOM in a minute here. Hold on. I got to promote the sticky note here. All right. So look, today we got to do this because today we had here. Look, we had Alibaba 79 to 80 short sell. I mean, we like the level. It's a break. It's just a bad factory data coming out of China. Nice downside trend there. Alibaba today, right here, stock ticker BABA short. But the thing about this was the market kind of had a different story right off the jump, right? The market started to head to the downside, but look what Alibaba did. Went down, then went straight up. Now me, in my new, my new Taylor Swift era here, we're more patient. And so normally I would be like, oh, my level's 79, sounds good to me, 78.50, and I would have took this. And it's like, boom, right to the downside. So I feel like we're definitely in the right area right here, but we're not, it just didn't get up to this area. So like yesterday's open was 79, with the bad data coming through. I wasn't expecting to get it to 80 bucks. But again, with that PCE, remember, we write the sticky note down before the market, an hour before the market opens, even earlier than that. We are on the air an hour before. So that's the problem. Didn't know the levels, but again, yesterday's pre-market 78.50. I like 79 for a short in Alibaba. If there's some way we can rip this afternoon, which would be great because we're long now off the bottom here of Apple. We've just been getting out a lot up here. And then we have, look at this trade. All right, we're reloaded. Right here on AMD. So couple shorts, bringing it back in off the 50-period moving average. So it's scalp season right here for AMD and for Apple. But oh man, it was a tough one early here with the market just falling downside. But we do have our guests ready to go.
But before we get to that, those trades in this rundown brought to you by American Airs, trading in the USA under the symbol AAIRF and in Canada under symbol Wi-Fi, WIFI. This company just announced a knockout punch, a global marketing partnership with the UFC. Airs Tech is dedicated to bridging the gap between technology and wellness. Airs Tech's mission is to provide cutting-edge solutions that protect against electromagnetic radiation without disrupting everyday use of technology. This innovative company has seen consistent revenue growth and boasts several high-profile customers like Kim Kardashian and Russell Brand. Invest in American Airs today, OTCQB, AirF, and on the CSE, it is Wi-Fi. We like that symbol. Get that knockout.
I like that Wi-Fi. That's a knockout symbol.
Yeah, look, man, if you get a choice at symbol,
yeah,
and you have an opportunity to have something that sticks out or grabs people out there, we're human beings. You should always make that choice. It's just I don't understand when you have a bland one or you have like an easy low-hanging fruit and people don't do it. And someone I know that understands grabbing the low-hanging fruit and knocking it out of the park when it comes to trading is our guest this afternoon. We got Big Mike.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
He's got the cap
on. What's up, pals? How you doing?
Hey, what's up? Hey, yo, says Mike Edwards on a Friday. What does a Friday look like for True Trading Group? Are you guys sort of little hands-offy here? Do you still have your thing at the end of the day? What are some of the trades you're looking at? Do you close trades out on the week? What does a Friday afternoon, especially on a shortened week, look like?
We were pretty active today. Today we were, if you remember last time that I was on, it was 2 weeks ago, I think I was on when you and I were talking about not really trusting the breakout to the all-time high. Once we broke back underneath that previous all-time high yesterday, today we were really looking for that level to be resistance, then for us to come on and then try to take the short. So we had some pretty good shorts today on Meta and Amazon. We also traded some small caps today, like that NVOS. I don't trade small caps all the time, but sometimes when these things heat up and you get a little bit of a short squeeze, I will go in and I will trade those. Completely out of the small cap positions. We still do have some pieces of the Meta and Amazon shorts, but bulk of those positions are all off the table going into next week. I really want to see how the markets close today. We kind of had a nice bounce here, a little bit further than I would have kind of expected us to go, but this is really the top end. I'll take you guys on over to my charts here. This is kind of the top end of the bounce that I would really be looking for here. And I know this is a chart of the SPY. I've got on this is my TC2000, my Ninja traders over here though with the futures. But that level is going to be around 52.35 on futures. And on SPY, it's right against yesterday's low. So if we don't get back above that level and we just kind of drift ourselves back down towards the close, I do like more downside next week. I think that the sell-off that we've had now 3 days in a row, we haven't had 3 down days in a row in a little while. Yeah, the gap down, a gap down. Today you gapped up and then went green to red. And I just think it's technical. I think it's technical profit taking off of the failed new high break. And if we stay beneath that low, I kind of think you can have a little bit more profit taking going into next week. And then you got CPI, Fed meeting, and everything else that can light things up.
It always gets it. The thing about this job and about what we do every day, Mike, of course, and you know that, is like we battle every single day the market. And it's like, it is not a zero-sum game. Like, you know, there's winners, there's losers. We can win on the short, you can win on the long at almost at the same time, depending on where your entries are, right? So that's why it's so key to understand the data points. And thanks for pointing that out on the SPY, because again, even if you take profit at those levels and you happen to be off and it continues to run or each way, that is what it is. You have to stick to your rules. And I think that even when you're talking about getting some out of meta, that's what I appreciate the most, is telling the truth. You know, we went short, it hit our targets, and then we covered the position. You know, and I think that's the one thing. Just quickly, I just want to come over to my screen here, guys, because we are trading live, Mike, so I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just took another fill right there on AMD, so I just want everyone to know, despite, you know, AMD being down 2.65% right here, the NASDAQ is under the 50-period moving average, and I think, just like that level you talked about on the SPY, it's the same one here on the NASDAQ. 18,365, this little line right here, we're under the 50 period. I believe if we can break in the next 10 minutes, this level lower, we could possibly sniff out, I don't know about days low again, but we could be going to the downside here. So I'm excited for that. What, just quickly about that meta trade, I know you've mentioned getting out of it a bit. Can I guess what level you shorted here?
Sure, yes.
Yeah, I kind of like this 462.50, 463, something like that in here on the daily. We did get a break today. Let me just see what that looks like on the 1 minute chart to see if that would have been an area for you. Yeah, so I think based on what we talked about on our market recap show, that you've identified some kind of a level in between 462 and 463. If you're better than me, then it might be 465. And that lined up pretty nicely on the daily chart. So Mr. Mike Edward from TTG, what was your trade on Meta?
It was exactly right there for that 463.5. You got it. You had a nice little support level yesterday across the lows. And there was just a lot of weakness in mega cap tech early. You know, it's like right off the open, you saw here's yesterday's lows on Meta. And then, you know, Meta takes out the low and then you get the first little bounce back and then you get the follow through to the downside. Same exact setup there with Amazon. And just the thing you can point out that when you see the weakness early, right? You take a look at the SPY, gap up, and the first couple of minutes off the open, you push, right back up into the previous level that you and I spoke about a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I was on here last and we were talking about that level being resistance now that it broke. So you had some PMI data that came out there as well that kind of helped push the markets to the downside. Once that PMI came out at 945, you rolled. And then that was all these mega cap stocks needed to just give you the push. Because you take a look, Meta was sitting at the low of the day while the SPY was pushing higher. Amazon actually broke that opening low while the SPY was pushing higher. So that weakness was there early. As soon as the markets then rolled after PMI, it was just, you know, dig your heels into the short, hold on to that position, and just take profits off as the trade unfolds. And Amazon right now is the weakest out of the bunch. Even if you take a look at Meta, like Meta's hanging around VWAP. But I'm looking at the exact same level. You said 18,365. I literally have written down here 18,360 for the potential reload on the short on the NASDAQ. So we've got the same exact levels lined up, and we'll see if we can maybe get a little bit more of a fade into the close.
I'm going to double that one up for a second here because you could, whether you look at the NASDAQ, I know we trade a lot of times, Michael, these tech names. So the NASDAQ is going to be what a lot of people gravitate towards. Back in the day, it was a lot more the S&P, but the ES overnight lows, same deal. You know, 52.35 here on the ES. That was the overnight bottom. We bounced into it early in the morning and dropped. We just bounced into it again today. So anything that is weak, if you're looking to reload, like that is the spot you want to do it, or you do it in the futures. It's not always just about the NASDAQ, and I know it's where the fun is going to be. But I wanted to ask you if this is true. There were a lot of good shorts today in terms of reversal plays that you could have pick and chose. Now, Amazon clearly, I mean, it's given up the goods. Meta's a fantastic one as well. if I'm guessing, I know they both just, in that last 3 days of downside, both rejected the 50 period on the daily. But what was your, like, I understand where you got into them, but what was it that led you to those two? Like, okay, so there was bad news in some of the chips yesterday. What, like, why not, say, Nvidia? Maybe why not AMD? Like, what led you to those two specifically?
So the reason why I went away from shorting the semiconductors was just because of where the weakness in tech is coming from lately due to earnings. Because what we've seen in earnings is that the software side of the AI boom has not developed and has not kept up to the hardware boom with the semiconductors. So you've seen the semiconductor stocks. I mean, they're weak today. I mean, the whole market was kind of weak today. But like prior to even today's sell-off, the Nvidias of the world, the AMDs of the world, they were kind of holding things together while you had, you know, Salesforce disaster, right? Snowflake has been a disaster. Datadog disaster. You have all of these cloud services or these software services companies are really getting hurt because people are realizing that the AI boom's not working its way into that side of the business yet. So I kind of stayed away from the semiconductors. I've been looking at Meta a lot over the last couple of trading days, and I'll take you guys back on over to my chart to show you the level that I was looking at on why I was kind of honing in on shorting Meta if and when the market finally rolled. And it's because of this level you see right here at 480. And this is just why I said this stock is what I like to look for. When I have high conviction on a directional move in the market, I'll try to find relative weakness or relative strengths depending on the direction of the market that I think we're going to head. And when I have Meta here, and obviously the SPY, makes the new high, NASDAQ makes that new high, and you had this beautiful support level that was holding there in Meta for 2 months, 2.5 months. You had the big gap down following earnings, and on that rally back, you can't get back through that level. So once we couldn't get back through that level, and then you put in this little like kind of shooting star rejection candle here a couple of days ago, that's when I'm saying, okay, this is the stock that we want to look at for that possible short. And then you have a little bit of a minor level. I'll just draw it across right here around 462 that, hey, if that level breaks, you could get some follow through. And that was a nice little trade that we can look for back underneath the 100-day moving average. And that's why we were kind of targeting this name and not so much, a semiconductor. But this is something that we've been kind of looking at for the last few days.
Yeah, I appreciate you answering that question because it's important, right? Like it's, entries, technicals, looking at the charts are all well and good, but we always talk about stock selection as well, being the other piece of the puzzle. Like when you have a bias one direction or the other, there's always the best place or a better place to express the trade. And sometimes even if you can have a winning trade, like don't get me wrong, but you can have an easier trade. And I'll speak from experience today because at the open, it wasn't as easy being short the chip names. Now, eventually, it all fell apart. But I don't think you ran into that trouble with some of the others. And just to that point, as you mentioned, we've all seen the charts of CRM and Snowflake. Just to that point, like this is the weakness we're talking about. Snowflake especially, it's out there for you. Whether you trade CRM or Snowflake, you get that information in earnings season, which is able to lead you to some other trades. So look, we got the weekend coming up here. Obviously, we've had like all of these earnings. And things usually tend to slow down after earnings season in May. What are you looking forward to? Obviously, we could be in a bit of a pullback, but is there anything you're looking at for some relative strength maybe the next couple of weeks? Like where are your eyeballs going to be going into next week? And is there anything you'll even remotely like long?
I'm really leaning towards shorts right now for next, just for a little bit more follow through on the technical profit taking. Like the price action that I'm seeing right now is identical to price action that we saw in the very early days of April. And if we want to go back to my charts, I'll just show you real quickly kind of what I'm referring to. Because if we go back and you take a look at early March, we had this little flat top all-time highs that we established right here. Then those all-time highs were broken, right? Okay. Then you consolidate sideways for 2 weeks as you consolidate the new all-time high. And then you have the big flush out bearish engulfing candle. After that big flush out bearish engulfing candle, you failed the prior high, you bounced the next couple days, and then you got the real profit take pullback in April. That's exactly the price action that we have seen over the last couple of weeks. And if I pan things on over now to our charts over here, let's do it again. There's your little flat top all-time high resistance. You broke above it when we had the lighter than expected CPI. We then traded sideways and consolidated the new all-time high for about a week and a half or so. Sean, that's when you and I were both like, hey, I don't really know if we trust this breakout. And then once again, bearish engulfing kind of flush out candle. You bounce the next couple of days, and then now there comes the profit-taking pullback. I just think it's a technical pullback. Like a lot of people were asking today, they're like, but Mike, the PCE data was in line with expectations. Yields came down. Why would stocks now come down? And I don't necessarily think that this is an inflation-driven move. I just think it's more the more likely next 3% move in the market was to the downside than it was to the upside. And once you failed that prior high, I just think that triggers profit taking. And that profit taking, when that happens, should last longer than just a day or two. And that's what you saw in April. I think we're gearing up for something like that again here going into June. And the target that I'm aiming for is right down here. This is the target that I'm looking for going into the next like 1 or 2 weeks. And then you'll catch the 100-day. This purple line on my screen is the 100-day SMA. And that's a beautiful spot for the markets to stabilize. And then you'll still put in a higher low, and that keeps that uptrend intact. I think it's a healthy technical pullback. I'm just trying to see if we can get a little bit more out of this next week.
All right, Mike. We always talk. We have a little fun around here. We talk about food. You know, last time we were on the show, we talked about Starbucks, and we talked about Cava. And I mean, what? I mean, dude, that... I know, like me and you talked about it live on the show. Look at this. Mike was on here, earnings came out, and we're like, oh yeah, you know, move down. We're looking to get some more back in this name. Who knows how much further this will fall? Well, guess what, Mike? It didn't fall any much further at all than when you and I were on it. I don't know if it came with your recommendation or not. I don't know if the people were watching this and they're just like, hey, Mike loves Cava. We got to get in here and start to buy up this stock. And I'm just like, hey, yo, maybe I got to buy some Cava too. But I didn't. Why? Because I have a 3-day rule when it comes to earnings, but when you wait for those kind of rules, sometimes you miss this huge move up. So Cava goes 75 on earnings, all the way back up to 97, and now we're just kind of chilling out here around 90 bucks. So I still like the stock in this area, but maybe we will slow down a bit here, down 2.5%. Were you able to get back in after we talked? I know that you were in early and then sold it, but this is a name that I'm definitely trying to buy pullbacks in.
Oh no, full disclosure, I didn't day trade or swing trade Cava. Cava's just in the long-term portfolio.
Right.
We put it in there in the low 60s back in April. So I'm just holding that because that's going to be there for a while. I'm not going to like trade around.
Right.
It's my long-term portfolio. It's a different, totally separate accounts. I don't like trying to actively trade it like I do in I trade through Lightspeed, and then, you know, my long-term portfolio stuff I have with JP Morgan, and that's just kind of sitting in there. And I'm just going to ride that out. You know, I'm just going to hold on to it. I'm going to ride it out and just see, you know, does it have a chance to become something similar to Chipotle? Sure. Will that take a decade? Yes. So, but I think a lot of this move really came from some really smooth talk from the CEO, because the CEO said something specific on the conference call that I really had people feel that this stock is recession resilient. And he said, yeah, the consumer is slowing, but they're still spending with us. And I think when he said that, I think that made people feel a lot better, because the initial move off earnings was down. You know, this thing was down almost 10%. I think it was.
Right.
On
earnings more.
Print. Yeah, found support in the mid 70s and then just ripped. I feel like that commentary maybe had something to do with it to kind of shift the tone maybe and the sentiment on the earnings release. But it's a name I like. It's a company I like. It's food I like. I'm going to keep that in a long-term portfolio for a while. If it gets back to the 60s over the next couple of months or so, I'll probably add to it.
All right, yeah, I do like that position for Cava. I haven't been able to get into that one, but again, you and I talked about this. It's buying things that you're familiar with, right? We talked about doing channel checks and things like that. You go into an Apple store and it's completely dead, you know, you might want to hold back. You go in there and there's tons of lineups, you know that there's, you know, some interest in that. So I like that for Cava. All right, on that note, being a father of 2 that I am, and congratulations to yourself as well, we are spending some money on Roblox. Now, Roblox is a stock that, see, like, when my kids ask me for more Robux, they're called Robux. You'll know about this very soon. And what you have to do is you got to pay $15 and they get like 1,000 Robux or something. Then they run out and they come and ask you again. And Then you have to change your credit card number because you forget to keep it in there. Then they keep spending on. No, hopefully you don't do that. But something that we spend a lot of time on, and I think the kids do too, not too much time, but Roblox is a thing right now. And honestly, this little level break right here, we go back to May. I just want to get your opinion on it, Mike. It goes back to May of 2023. This little $34 level, we came in about 50% retracement into that level. We made new highs again. Just for the year, came back and just got really flushed out as we made that bottom in October that we talk about. Nice move back up to that same high of 48. This stock is very range bound, but I almost wonder, there's earnings there, horrible down to 27. I always say we're getting some garbage out of here, and that would mean that we'd have to break through 34. I think on a breakout, this could have some legs with a short float behind it. Does Roblox look like anything to you at these levels, or maybe did we miss the boat not buying it maybe in the low 30s?
I haven't really looked at Roblox too much. One of our other mods, and just so people know, I'm not the only mod in TrueTrade. There's 8 mods that are in TrueTrade that call out their trades and share their screens, answer questions, everything else. But one of our other mods has been really focused on Roblox pretty heavily here, and that 34 level is big. And I think. And people might say like, oh, Mike, thanks to the analysis, could go up, could go down. But I really feel like sometimes stocks get to these inflection points where you have these major levels that a break gives it momentum, a failed break sees the thing roll over. And I feel like you're kind of getting into that. I have this line on my screen. You and I are seeing the same levels here. I mean, this is a beautiful level here at 34. Used to be support here. Then it was, came back down. You dropped into it in April. Then it was resistance. After that initial bounce, it's still resistance here today. The only thing that I think is like you do have kind of a little bit of a death cross happening here, the 50-day crossing under the 200-day that might keep a lid on it. But if you break through that 34, like what I would look for, I love when I see candles like this on the daily chart where it's like, oh, it looks like you're going to break and then it pulls itself back and closes underneath. I love when I see candles like that because the next trading day tells me everything I need to know. If you come back Monday and we go right back to 34, that to me is a buy because this tail through the level gives the sellers all the opportunity they need to just really dump the thing back to 32. But if this thing comes right back up to 34 on Monday, then I think it's a long and you probably have some room up to like 35 and a half. But I love when I see candles like that at major levels. It really gives me like, okay, let's get ready. Let's look for that confirmation signal to then take our trade for the next couple of days.
That's, for me, that's been a big thing looking at trades is trying to find out where people are trapped. And I think that, you'd get that false sense of security that, hey, it didn't break 34. Now it's time to go southbound. And all of a sudden something happens and the stock takes off. I actually have to be correct. It's only 4% short float. So it's not huge too much anymore. I see if you come over to the double shot here, Ramin, I see Neil set something up here in the middle. This is something that I found in my, Ramin, do you have the double shot there? No, the shot without Mike. This thing. Here we go, Mike. This is a troll from the Blue Jays. The last time we actually meant anything, 92-93, right there. So you better watch out. We got this troll right here that's coming for your Yankees. I don't know if it hasn't mattered the last 30 years, but this year, maybe it will. We just swept the mighty Chicago White Sox, Mike.
Exactly.
They're terrible.
And now I've got the NBA's pretty much #1 team, Toronto Raptors.
I like the fit. You got a nice fit going there today. I like that.
I appreciate it.
Black and the red, the Raptors. It looks good.
It's Friday.
I appreciate that, Mike. I appreciate it.
It looks good, man. I had to put the Yankee hat on today because I'm really sour about the Rangers' loss last night.
Yeah.
I'm really sad. The Panthers are too good, man. 5-on-5, they're a better team. They're just. They are,
and they have the pedigree, right?
I'm willing to say it. I'm a sports fan, so I have no problem saying when a team is better. Right now, the Panthers are a better team.
Yeah, and plus they have that pedigree, right, being there before. Yeah. So I went to, my best experience of going to an NHL game this season was late in the season when the Rangers came to Toronto and everybody was waiting for Rempe versus Reeves, and it happened, and it was just like, I'm not a huge fan of fighting in hockey, to be honest with you. But like when it's lined up like that, when you have those two heavyweights coming through, man, that was a fantastic experience. And like I still get right now a little bit of goosebumps just because being in that crowd. And I can imagine, I've never been to a game at MSG. I could just imagine like any sport, like boxing, wrestling, a concert.
I want to see a fight.
Yeah. What's your best experience, if you don't mind, at MSG, assuming you've been to a couple events?
Well, I was actually I went to one of the games for the Kane series when they played the Canes.
Oh wow, nice.
I went to that series. That was a lot of fun. It's interesting now because, and I was at a Knicks game also this year, and it's different now than what it was like a few years ago, because a few years ago, like the Knicks weren't competitive. The Rangers, right. The Rangers have been pretty good over the last couple of years, but it's a whole different type of atmosphere and a whole different type of energy when your team is playing well, obviously. And when you're in Madison Square Garden and the Rangers or the Knicks are playing well, the energy in there is unlike anything, any arena that's out there. It's one of the best energy environments that I think. And I was going to ask you, when you mentioned about Rempe with the fights in hockey, did you see when the Rangers played the Devils and off opening drop, all 5 guys fought? Did you see that?
Yeah. Hasn't that happened a couple times? I feel like that's I watch that and my kids are like, what's going on? I'm just like, they're just having fun. It's like a little carnival.
That was the only hockey I watched all year.
That's the only
that
hockey
that wasn't the Leafs. That was outside of the Leafs, that was the only hockey I actually saw because everyone was talking about it. I'm like, are you kidding me? That was wild, absolutely wild. But
Mike, thank you so much for joining us and spending a few minutes with us today. The chat absolutely loves it. So Mike Edward from True Trading Group, thank you so much for coming by. Everyone can find you on X. Anything you want to just quickly talk about? You guys going live tonight or anything?
Yeah. I'm going live. I'm going live at 4:00 actually, instead of usually 4:30, because I got tomorrow's the baby shower, so I got to go drop a bunch of stuff off at the venue before they close. So I'm gonna go live at 4:00. Just kind of recap the week, talk about my thoughts for next week. I mean, the SPY's pushing. We're pushing right now, so we are getting deeper into this, or we're pushing up further than what I would have anticipated going into the afternoon. So I really want to see how we close. I don't want to see us, really close back above prior day's low, because then you go into next week, and I just think that it's not as clear of a directional momentum type of move. I would love a fade into the close. I think it makes next week's trade easier. But we'll have to see. We'll see how we close it out, and you guys know better than most, right? We have the ability to be flexible. We can be long one day, short the next. Hell, we can be long and short in the same day. So we wait and see how we close things out, and then we'll come up with our game plans going into next week. So I'll be live at 4:00, and I'll talk about my thoughts for next week then.
Yeah, that's why everyone loves the realness there, because you got to keep it honest. You can have all the ideas in the world at the beginning of the day, but if you're not willing to change and to move with the market, it doesn't matter. Appreciate you every single time, Mike, and have fun at the shower tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Take care. Have a good weekend. See you guys.
You have a good weekend, too.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
All right,
just always fun. Always fun.
Always a good time. Always a good time. Well, the thing is when
it's hard to rep your team when they're not good, but that's why they're your team.
No, it's not that hard to rep.
It's our team.
You just got to say it. Like what I told them. We're impressed with that. We swept the Chicago White Sox. You start with baby steps and you go from there.
That's not a baby step. That's literally like
crawling.
You just moved
That's like you just.
Yeah, you crawl.
You just came out.
What was weird is the market was just pushing higher
second market more clearly.
And then all of a sudden there was a little bit of a pullback just now a couple seconds ago. I wanted to mention Dell, by the way, because I know it's down 18%, but that was a healthy rally off of the bottom, which just made a little bit of a rejection candle there at 141. So pull back on Dell. If we are going to go running into the afternoon, this would be a key spot for it down here at 138. If it's going to bounce, maybe somewhere off like VWAP in there, or the 138 level would look pretty solid. So recovery day for Dell. Remember, this stock is bouncing off the 50-period moving average. So for anyone that wanted to dip by in Dell, I feel like in this earnings season, if you don't get that first dip, and I'm talking about UCRM, it's been... Well, there's your chance. Like, I know this came in like the next day as well, but like this is like overnight, and then that first morning, there's your bottom. Today, it's off to the races. You don't wonder if you just had your chance at Dell at the 50-period moving average and you never see it again. I feel like Meta did something similar, although it wasn't very... Some of these haven't been that big to the downside, but you might have just missed your chance It's not always an easy thing to do, but if you really like the stock, you buy the dip that's available. You just saw Cava at the 50 period as well. By the way, did we even bother showing Cava again? It's going to be 100.
We can if you want to.
So when this breaks $100, is it not just a? I've never taken a look. I haven't really traded this stock. I think obviously on the IPO we probably had it a little bit, but $100 break on this all-time high at some point. You could see that next week the way it's going. A little bit of a pullback day, but then everything pulled back today.
Well, so we're right at that level that we had discussed right now on the futures. So we just bounced off of it. Like instead, I'm sitting here in AMD, but we should have just shorted the futures. It just came right into there. We should have now 20 handles in the money. I gave this level right with Mike, man. I said 18,365. Like that was the level, 18,365. Rewinded 20 minutes. Shout out to Mike Edwards again. Thanks for coming through. But we had just talked about that level, and look what just came in, 18,365. I don't recall exactly the level that Mike had mentioned to us on the futures, but we talked about coinciding with each other for the SPY and the Qs. So right there, just came right in and just tagged it, and then dropped. Actually, it dropped 20 handles, so 20 handles. So nice move. That's a decent retracement back in there. We did wind up shorting a little bit more of AMD, and we did get out of some more Apple. We actually got out of a decent spot of Apple right there twice as we went to 191, 190.80. Again, just playing the range. Right, look at these wick tops. I mean, we can't ignore them again, right? So this time we don't, and we able to get some out of this 190 long. Biggest position of Apple for me on the day was that, hence the trillion outs. All right, here comes AMD. Hopefully this name will come back into the downside right now. We've got the glasses on so we can see the market a little bit better. So we're gonna watch out for that. And here comes AMD pulling back in. The 50-period moving average is near my average price. We're short at 60s. So comes in right there. That would be this. That's 45. Okay, if that's 45, I'll get something out. I'm just going over to the stock right now, putting a bid there at 53 or so. Maybe we can get a little bit of a dip down there. But we missed the reload on AMD because the reload was right here. So we missed it by like 20 cents. Maybe we can get into that right now. Is there news?
Oh, no, there was just, look, Sam, while we were talking to Mike, obviously we're not going to interrupt things. And if it was a stock that maybe people would trade more, which Sam isn't, Boston Beer is not necessarily the biggest day trading stock, there was news on Boston Beer. It looks like they halted to the upside, opened back up. They're in talks to sell themselves to Suntory, which is Jim Beam. The owners of Jim Beam. Maybe we'll have a little of that this weekend. But yeah, so Sam, Boston Beer, resumed trading.
Oh, it's halted.
No, it halted at 272. It closed at 256 yesterday. It opened back up at 295. It's at $325. Now, I have not seen anything. I'll have to find it. I haven't seen anything regarding a potential value, at least not on the headlines that I've looked at or the stories that I've looked at. So not really sure what the overall value may or may not be, but it opened back up and went another 10% up. Now up 28%. Obviously, with premiums, when a stock is beaten down like this, usually they'll look at something like a 90-day average of the stock and then slap a premium on it. So it's not usually like where it is from the bottom. You know, if they're considering it in around here, typically the premiums based on some level in the past. But a big move up there in SAM. I don't think it's that much of a day trade. It's only done 300,000 shares worth of volume. All I'm in is Micron, which just did another push back into the high, which we took a dip into. So we're shorting this name. We're 20 cents in the money on it. Next bid is down 50 pennies or so. And guess what's going? GameStop is going. Because why not?
Gone. Sold to the next person who wants to buy a soft copy of a video game, because that's the problem with GameStop, is you could just download everything, and I don't think they have too much longevity in the name, but as a day trading vehicle, it's hot fire. So there goes GameStop right here. I mean, look, let's just talk about what happens when there's no one talking about it. It goes to the downside, okay? But now it's been, brought back to life here over the last 2 weeks, and it continues to do some good moves, man. I mean, even today, like those of us that have bought in, I shouldn't say I haven't bought in it, but we've been looking at it. So those of you that have looked at GameStop and bought some with your own hard-earned cash down here near $20, I think to me, that makes sense. We had a $20 top right there. It's been holding again. So if you like to play this game, I feel that this $18, $18.50, $17 mark. And again, Mike was talking about this. Look, like, you can always say this looks good, that looks good. At the end of the day, the market's going to be the one, that gives you the trade or doesn't, and takes your money or doesn't. And you just got to make the best decisions you possibly can. So looking at a stock like GameStop, the fundamentals, we know about those. We can continue to talk about it. They just did a share offering last week that was bought at market, which kept the rally going, I feel like, which has been great, and has been supported all week. So for me, I feel like the market now has sort of dissolved some of this roaring kitty stuff and is now trying to trade just on realistic levels. Like, it's really been leveling off now. So I don't know. I mean, could you still get squeezed to the upside? Yes. What is the short flow rate now? 25%. So I feel like it's maybe even growing, since the last time we checked it. But it's a good short level. I mean, good amount of shares short. Again, you're looking over here, $1.2 billion cash right now.
I thought they had more cash than that.
That's a decent amount of cash, though.
Well,
but they're raising cash too.
Yeah.
So, and then June 11th as well is their earnings. So you're 2 weeks away.
Oh, snap. I didn't.
Snapchat or?
No, snap. I didn't
damn.
No, I didn't realize it was that.
Yeah, I
that's
know.
so soon.
Like, I knew that's what
we get.
I didn't realize that either until I was looking at it now.
Yeah, Nvidia on the 10th, the split, and then GameStop the next day. But the thing, and we've talked about this before, when it comes out to things like GameStop or I want to throw something else out there, like maybe you gambled on C3AI earnings. There's always that portion of your trading or portfolio that are in shots, like lower probability, higher earner moves. But the only way that you're able to sort of take those types of shots is to have a bankroll to work with. It's hard to be confident. I know somebody who had all the confidence in the world in ETH when it was like 25 cents. But part of that is because he had the bankroll at the time. And if you want to get to that point, one of the things you want to do is figure out the ways in which you can do that so that you can take reasonable shots, not bet everything on one thing. And one way to possibly do that is coming out tomorrow. And that is the Freedom and Wealth podcast. See how I segue to that?
That's a good one.
That was pretty good. We're at 534 subscribers. Let's get to 600 before it drops tomorrow. Make sure you actually subscribe to the page. It's YouTube at Freedom Wealth Podcast. If you were listening to the previous podcast, which is completely different, this is more just about how to build wealth, how to understand different ways of becoming successful or generating success financially. It's just going to be different. And if you were subscribed to the old podcast, that doesn't matter. You have to subscribe to this one. So if you're getting notifications before, this is completely different. So make sure you hit it up. Let's see that get to 600 before we ring the bell tonight. Should be a lot of fun. I happen to know some of the things you guys talked about, but I don't want to spoil too much, but you guys are going to be really interested. I think it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun, and maybe discussing it some. You guys let us know what you think, and we'll discuss it some next week, and always taking suggestions. I know the boys are ready to talk about just anything. Speaking of shot plays, that BNAI is now continuing to fall. There might be a bounce at VWAP. I'm only saying that because they had this really good ramp zone at 550. We always look for a place where there's some significant price action, where I think I'm anticipating that there will be liquidity. So that's 550 on the daily chart. You also then come in today, like I said, VWAP, and then where it ramped up before. So a failure here I would hate, but if it can bounce in this area, joining it for a tight stop long is what I would like to go for. So it's in the downward phase, still 133% to the upside with 60 million in volume. I mean, the volume's fantastic on this thing. Oh, yeah, GameStop broke out. Like as if. I'm thinking, okay, well, BNAI is the one that's going today. That's the one you should believe in. By the way, I almost never will place a stop at VWAP. Pretty much never. Usually, if I'm trading in front of VWAP, I'm getting out at a specific level, either above it, rarely, but giving it some room underneath, which I really feel like should have been down around here, 35 and 40. But I know exactly what happened. I'm a fool, and I just put it at 2250 because I got lazy. Like, I hit the next target. I'm like, oh, let's move the stop up because it was starting to break out. So instead of giving it the same room, let's move the stop up a little bit and when we're letting it ride. And I just picked the first round number available, stopped out at VWAP, and then we're coming back onto the show doing our rundown. This should have been re-entry long. But it is what it is. You missed the next trade. We could be taking out the high on GameStop, which when you zoom all the way out is 23.75, not insignificant. It was resistance a couple of days ago in the afternoon. So keep an eye on GameStop, still short a chip name. I'm short Micron. The market's trying to get higher, but it's running into a little bit of resistance at this NASDAQ level. The ES has managed to punch through a bit. Not sure what's leading the ES. The ES did make a fresh high. I didn't actually go to my quote board and maybe see what it was that was doing it, but the ES broke out without the NASDAQ breaking out. So I feel like the chip short is okay. I'd be leery of anything that did break its resistance just now. I think you'd want to stay away from shorting it because the SP is finding some strength here.
Yeah, S&P is definitely finding some strength. I'm just working on a GameStop chart here so I can show everybody in a minute.
Oh, wow. Boeing actually is looking really good today. Finally, Boeing is looking good.
Finally going?
Well, I mean, it's relatively speaking, it's not that great. It's up 2%. On the daily chart, it doesn't look that great. However, maybe we close above the 50 period. I'm actually doubting it's going to happen now. There's only an hour left in the day. It's still got to go a couple of dollars here. But I'm thinking 180 next week. It's already done a wipeout bottom, consolidation, and then take out that next top. This is more like 179, actually. And we talk about this. When you have a key inflection point, which is exactly what happens, and the reason I'm skeptical it can make that breakout today is, look what happened last time it was here. It's a sleepy Friday. Does it have the juice to go a couple of dollars and break this resistance, which is clearly there? I don't know if it can do it, but if you can do that next week, this should be on the radar. I don't know, yeah, maybe I should have put this as my trade of the week, 179 break. It doesn't matter. We already have our picks. You guys can find out about those in the weekend note. But Boeing, strong move. I think it might run out of steam because of the resistance. But next week, this could be something. It's got a nice consolidation bottom, and the next step is usually breaking out that top.
All right. So we did get one fill there at 50 or whatever it was there on AMD. We talked about putting our fill there, so that actually worked out quite well for us. Apple's still trying to hold out higher. It's 301 right now, so let's start to look, see if we can get involved with a few more names here. I'm just going to refresh my scanner to make sure. I was doing some work with trade ideas right here, so we will refresh everything and then get going. So, all right, Tesla. Let's look at Tesla quickly. All right, bouncing around. We did get a 50-period moving average, obviously, right there. That looks to be something, but again, until it bounces back upside, it's stuck in a range. So for Tesla, 200 period support looks really nice down there at 175 and change, but for now, I mean, it's kind of just hidden. It has to come in, sit there a little bit, and then take it. So if we fall back into 175.50, might be worth it, but that has to come in 50 cents. Like, I don't know if it's worth taking right now. The upside in what's left for the day, especially if the NASDAQ, and I'll talk a little bit more definitive about longs if we can break this NASDAQ level. So I don't necessarily want to go short the Qs. We still are long Apple, which is working out right now. So this name not really hitting anything. That's the NASDAQ. So Tesla kind of looks very similar, trying to break this 176. And I think that if we can go, then that would be something. But Tesla today down, same as the market. So it's just going to have to wait. The one stock, I'm taking these glasses off. The one stock that, we're always going to be able to look at for opportunity is going to be Nvidia. So again, 180 and change. That's 1070. I don't know, man. I mean, again, it's just kind of in the middle. I like to look for something near VWAP, naturally, right? I mean, I like that Roblox trade right here. That needs to break above 34. We sort of did have a little talk about that. And then just to talk about the position that I currently have, AMD, the average in for me is right here. Where was it? No, it was a little bit higher than that, wasn't it? Yeah, no, right, almost where we're at right now. 163.30 is my average price, this little spot. And then if we get stopped out, it's gonna have to break VWAP. So that's my VWAP spot right there in order to do something on AMD. So I'd rather just talk about the position that I have because I'm gonna keep staying in this one. So right now, nice little upside move for AMD. Hopefully we'll be able to short it. I still like the relative weakness in the chip space.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. I just noticed something that I probably should have already have. The gap broke that top.
29?
Yeah, well, no, the 28.6. I mean, 29, not yet, but it did break the 52-week high. It was a bit of a rejection, but you find a stronger stock today. Okay, that's not like a low float crazy runner. Find a stronger stock. it filled in the gap. I had a couple of longs in it, one not good. The second one we scalped. I remember talking about there being the seller in here, so I scalped it out, and then it just continues to go. So it's a triple top, almost a triple top at the 29 level for Dell. It did break by a couple of cents and then came back in with a lower high at 29. So technically speaking, 29 is broken. 29 hasn't lost the level just yet. So this could be a top break on Gap. It's a good short float. The retail names have been a great space for runners. Clearly this earnings season, I don't have to tell anybody that. Speaking of which, I can't believe we talked about this in the aftermarket show, obviously because they had earnings, but I don't think we said one word about Ulta Beauty today, which is strange because I know it was up at a 420, I think we opened at, something like that. Maybe 420, yeah, 421 this stock opened at. And we were just talking with Mike about rejection candles at key levels and all that good stuff. And whether it's $410 or you go a little bit further back on this daily and say, okay, well, look at this price here on volume. This is about 425 in here when on volume it broke out and sustained a massive rally. You come all the way back, it's resistance on the way down. That's a pretty big rejection.